Call to order the Wheeling Plan Commission for Thursday, May 10th, 2012. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Commissioner Burns. Here. Commissioner Dorban.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Rafato, I'm here. Commissioner Schaaf.
Here.
Commissioner Steilen. Here. And Chairman Maloney.
Here. Mr. Jennings, are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes this evening.
Okay. First is a consent item, docket number SCBA 12-23. This is World Point 1326 South Wolf Road, appearance approval of free and wall and freestanding sign. And World Point manufactures and distributes AED devices. These are defibrillators commonly found in public locations, and they also do the training for these. Mr. Jennings?
Nothing to add. There's an image of the sign in front of you, and these are the proposed images, fairly similar to what's there right now. I believe they're just changing their logo. So that is the extent of the application.
Any questions?
No, but
Motion?
may I just say I do appreciate having the description of what the company does in our paperwork. I think it's good for our residents to know and for us to know.
Very good.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Please call the roll.
Motion was made by Commissioner Dorban, seconded by Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Dorban?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rafato, vote yes. Commissioner Schaaf?
Yes.
Commissioner Steilen?
Yes.
Commissioner Burns?
Yes.
And Chairman Maloney?
Yes. Items for review. Docket number PC 12-17 and SCBA 12-22. Tecomanudo Taqueria, 34 North Elmhurst Road. PC 1217 is a site plan and appearance approval for landscaping, and the appearance approval for the sign we did last meeting. We tabled the rest of it for today. Gentlemen?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Art Holland. I'm the sign contractor designer on the project. With me, I have the leasee tonight, Chris Lambro, excuse me. Wakanda, Illinois.
Okay. And you want to tell us what you're doing this time?
What we're doing tonight is redoing the landscaping on the frontage of the property. We're suggesting to take out the concrete walkway around the existing pylon sign, remove that entirely, and include that in the bed so it's continuous from one curb to the other. After doing that, we would take out all the shrubs that are existing there, put in some new sod, or not sod, excuse me, some new planting soil, and put decorative or flowering shrubs around the sign, which would be some double knockout roses. Those would be in bloom entirely throughout the growing season. They would have a red bloom on them and green foliage. During the winter, they would still stay in a green reddish bush type appearance if it isn't a very severe winter. The bush is going to mature into about a 3x3, 3x4 area. So they should form a large barrier around the sign itself and come up to about 3 feet in height. After that, you're going to come down another level to about an 18-inch hosta plant, and that's going to be a variegated type of leaf with white and green showing against the background of the dark red and dark green. And from that, we're going into a bed of cedar, natural cedar, which would be a nice warm natural cedar color, eventually going to a grayish brown color. From that, we're putting some mixed lungwort, which is a low-growing plant with variegated colors of blue, white, and pink on the flowering stem of it, and it's still going to hold some green color during the wintertime. After we leave the planting bed, we're going to put in some evergreen type ground cover which will show all seasons in a green pattern. It'll have some flowers during the spring, and during the winter time, if it's not covered by snow, it'll still have some color of green in it. So what we're proposing in that area is more or less maintenance-free and should grow to specific heights and maintain that height. During drought periods, I think we would need to have some watering and some irrigation in there, but that can be done manually. They're not a high demand on water plants that we're suggesting. After that, we're moving to the other two outer islands, and we're going to start with the North Island. Again, we're taking that area. It's going to be completely reconfigured, or it's going to stay in the same configuration, but the front has been damaged by a traffic accident, and that is proposed to be repaired also. So there would be a new curb on the south side of that, and it would be in good condition. And then we're going to take out the plantings, the low plantings, and I'm suggesting to leave in the larger shrub that is there, which it does cause a effect of hiding some of the parking in the back. And it is more or less mature, and it is in good shape, so we trim it up from the bottom, leave the bloom at the top, and then we would leave the ground cover around that, and we show a free-form design separating that from the mulch. We're carrying back some more of the knockout roses in that section and putting back some of the low-growing hosta in front of that. So we have colors from the main section that is in front of the building brought over to the north end, and we're going to repeat that again over on the south side. There is one or two bushes over on the south side at the very south of that island that we might save. I think they're worth saving. They're mature and they just need to be trimmed up, and they would be a good barrier before the other property starts. So that is our proposal. Are there any questions I can answer?
Commissioner Dorband.
Thank you. While I like the choice of plantings you have here, I'm a little concerned that I'm not seeing any that are evergreen, like a small bush type of thing that's going to, everything's more low, flat to the ground. I guess I would like to see something evergreen that's a little bit, has a little more presence to it. Is there a reason why you chose not to do that?
I wanted to emphasize the color in the 3-foot knockout roses because the sign is basically dark at the base, and I wanted to bring in some red color and contrast it with the low-growing ground cover. I wanted to be maintenance-free, and I didn't want to go into the situation where you pointed out that these low-growing plants or shrubs or evergreens are going to come up and not be maintained. So I tried to keep it in a mode where everything was self-sufficient. They would grow to a certain height, be maintained at that height. You would have color during the winter and during the growing months, and it would be more or less very decorative and not heavy shrub looking, because it falls into the parking lot and into their patio area, and it's more or less a see-through with vibrant colors for decoration.
Well, I don't know that knockout roses are totally, you know, without any care. You do have to cut them back, you do have to protect them in the winter, you do have to take some kind of care with them. And certainly they need some trimming during the summer months.
That's understandable, yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
You're talking about maintenance-free when I know that knockout roses do need some care, whether it's during the year or at the end of the year. You know, that's why I'm bringing that up.
I see. Do you have
And
any?
I just am just a little unsure that everything's too flat, but that's only my opinion. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Stylen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I noticed that the bottom edge of the sign is about 10 foot up. So, you know, had this been a raised planter of some kind, I think that would have been a little bit different. But seeing as how you're right down at street level, I kind of agree with Pam that putting some kind of evergreen that was a little bit more upright in nature right around the base of the sign, and then putting the roses on the outside of them would give you, you know, a lot of contrasting colors between the red and greens of the evergreens and the browns of the sign. So I too would like to see a little bit higher form of evergreen material just close into the sign post base, whatever you want to call it, area. Other than that, I think it looks pretty good. I'm not too sure how the mulch will stand during the time, because it does go from, you're using the light tannish color, and then it goes gray pretty quickly, and then, you know, are you planning on refreshing that every year, or?
As needed. If it does wash away, or is it diminished, we would bring in
Take
more.
it and
Correct.
make nests out of it.
We're not going to neglect it.
Okay, thank you. That's my only concern, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Schaaf.
Thank you. I have no additional comments or questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Ravato.
I could go either way on the evergreens. I think the knockout roses would be fine too as they grow. So I'm okay with the existing landscape plan.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. I'm also okay with what you've got here. Thanks.
Commissioner Burns.
Thank you. I'm glad you're breaking up that concrete to allow for more plantings there. I think that'll be an improvement.
Thank you.
The color will be an improvement. And on I can see that on the north and south islands, there are some bushes there that you want to save, trim them up before you plant some flowers around them. I think that'll be real nice. I was wondering in the middle there, if you couldn't transplant some of those evergreens that are existing and get them close to the base of the sign, thereby giving us the height close to the base that we're asking for. And then you'd have the outside of those bushes for the flowers, the lower growing plants.
That sounds like a very good suggestion, yes. Thank you.
Those are my comments, Mr. Chairman.
My only one is on the evergreens. It's a good idea, but the knockouts are going to go about 4 feet high. What kind of an evergreen are you going to have behind that that's not going to get out of control? You know, you can think of it something like an arborvitae, but they split during the winter. I'd just as soon see it the way it's proposed. Is there a motion for conditions? Is there a motion to move the question on the site and appearance approval?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Please call the roll.
Motion was made by Commissioner Burns, seconded by Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Burns.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Ravato, I vote yes. Commissioner Schaaf.
Yes.
Commissioner Stylen.
Yes.
Commissioner Dorban.
Yes.
And Chairman Maloney.
Yes. I misspoke a little bit on SCBA 1222. We gave approval last week to make the sign, but we didn't officially vote on it. So I'd like to move question the appearance approval of the freestanding sign. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Please call the roll.
Motion was made by Commissioner Dorban, seconded by Commissioner Ravato. Commissioner Dorban.
Yes.
Commissioner Ravato, I vote yes. Commissioner Burns.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Commissioner Schaaf.
Yes.
Commissioner Stylen.
Yes.
And Chairman Maloney.
Yes. There's some paperwork to sign down that end.
Thank you very much.
When will you be open?
Hopefully next week.
Oh, good.
Next week.
What?
The sign get it.
Is it same owner?
Yes.
When will the sign be ready?
Well, now that we got it approved, hopefully, we're going to discuss that after we leave here.
Great, good luck.
Thank you. I do have one quick question, if you don't mind. There was last meeting, someone had mentioned there was a tree in the property just south of us, the gas station, and it was scheduled to be removed. It's blocking the sign when you're approaching from the south. I know it was discussed last week. Is there anything I could do to contact them to speed that up, or?
We've contacted them, the staff has contacted them. We don't have a definite response on the timing, but it is one of the conditions of approval of their landscape plan. So before they get their certificate of occupancy, they will have to address it. It's just a matter of when that happens exactly.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck. Start a pool. Within 2 months. Good. They come back? Big time. Good party. All I know about landscaping is that there's circles on the plan, and some circles are big and some are
Okay,
small.
next is a concept review for a proposed multifamily development called Northgate Crossing at 250 Northgate Parkway, and this is where the Kenny Construction Company is, or has been located. Mr. Jennings?
There's no additional staff comments at this time. The item was reviewed by the village board at the last meeting in April. The development team is here represented by Mr. Nix and Mr. James. I've just handed over to them for the presentation at this point.
Would you identify yourself speaking into the microphone?
Yes, good evening. My name is Warren James. With me is Matt Nix.
Matt Nix.
We're both with the Kinsey Real Estate Group based in Chicago, and we're pleased to be able to present to you tonight our concept plan for Northgate Crossing. Tonight we will provide a brief introduction and background of our experience, explain to you the site plan, the architectural character, market and resident profile, transit-oriented development nature of the proposed community, and the benefits to Wheeling. This year will mark my 25th year in the real estate development business. I've been very actively involved in and around the Chicago area, also in Wisconsin and Minnesota. Some of the transit-oriented developments that I have worked on in my career include South Commons in Deerfield, which includes 153 units adjacent to the Deerfield train station just south of it. Also, we recently completed the Uptown development in Park Ridge, which includes 184 units in a more of a vertical environment, mixed use, retail, with underground parking. That was a rather sophisticated development completed in downtown Park Ridge, adjacent to kitty corner of the Pickwick Theater. And we've also completed Asbury Place in Bartlett a number of years ago, which is adjacent to Bartlett's train station, including 126 townhome units. Closer to here, we are currently completing Waterbury Place in Buffalo Grove, which includes a combination of single-family and single-family attached townhome type for-sale dwellings. Matt and I are particularly attracted to the Kenny site because of its transit-oriented nature. As you can see from this slide, we're easily within a half mile of the train station. We envision people will wish to live here because of the proximity to the rail and the ease of that transportation. We also have embraced the vision of the downtown or the town center development and see this as a catalyst for additional development. The site, as we've proposed, includes 8 buildings. Each building has within it 32 units. They also include 8 internal garage spaces, individually divided with their own door with direct access to the common corridor. Those eight buildings comprise a total of 256 units on 15.7 acres for a density of 16.3 dwelling units per acre. The composition of the units within the building, 65% one bedroom. Those range from 650 to 800 square feet, and we anticipate the monthly rents between $1,100 and $1,400. 35% two-bedroom plans. Those range from 1,085 to 1,150 square feet, with monthly rents from $1,600 to $1,800. Also included are a total of 516 parking spaces. Within that, there are 64 enclosed garage spaces. As I noted earlier, 8 garages within each of the 8 buildings, resulting in 2.0 parking spaces per unit. We've also allowed for additional land bank parking spaces at the south end of the community, and if needed, even between the center building and the clubhouse. Speaking of the clubhouse, the central feature of the proposed development is approximately 4,000 square foot clubhouse, conceptually shown in this location. Behind it, a pool and an open lawn area. Within the clubhouse, we expect to have facilities including a fitness center, an entertainment area, media room, and a business center. While we've not designed the specific architecture, examples of similar clubhouses are shown in this slide. Included, as I'd mentioned, we would have an outdoor pool, a sun deck. We also envision the potential for volleyball or bocce court. We would also have walking paths throughout the community and a water feature. One of the hallmarks of my development experience includes extensive landscaping. The landscape photos that you see here, one is from Heatherfield and Glenview, the other two are from Waterbury Place in Buffalo Grove. Those landscape designs were completed by the Lakota Group out of Chicago, and we would expect to use Lakota on this proposed development as well. Finally, while we've not designed the specific architecture, we do have a we do have an extensive background in multifamily development, and Matt's going to go a little more into his experience in a moment. Some of the character images of product that has been previously developed by Bloodgood Sharp Buster are shown in these images. Bloodgood Sharp Buster is a nationally recognized firm. They also happen to be located, one of their offices located very nearby, and I have a 20-year track record of working with them very closely to develop award-winning communities. The character elevation of a very similar product to what we're proposing here is shown. As you can see, we've got 8 garage doors in the front. Those are carefully designed to blend into the building, the fenestration, the use of materials, the combinations, along with the composition of the architectural elements are important to create that pleasing character and to continue that architectural character around all 4 sides of the building. The ground floor, as I noted, includes 8 garages in the front of the building. It has 1-bedroom plans as shown in the yellow and the orange, 2-bedroom plans shown in the blue and in the pale green. On the second and third floor, the corner units are all 2 bedrooms, the interiors are 1 bedrooms. That gives us the mix of 21 1 bedrooms and 11 2 bedrooms within each building. I'm going to turn it over to Matt to discuss who we see as our resident profile and give you a little bit more about the need for this product in the community.
Thank you, Warren. My name's Matt Nix, and I am coming on my 20th year in the real estate business, the vast majority of which has been focused on multifamily development and more specifically purpose-built rental communities. Resident profile, who are we targeting? As we surveyed the market, we identified this fantastic location. We really see that there's an underserved need in the community. The first set of criteria, these are going to be luxury apartments minimum qualifying income of roughly $70,000. The target, there's actually kind of a broadening and a changing shift in the acceptance of and the opinion of renting versus owning. With the burst of the real estate bubble, I think lots of folks are reevaluating the benefits of renting, the flexibility. They're looking at real estate, specifically their home, as a utility, a place to live, a place to serve their needs versus an investment. And as such, we're seeing lots of people that are deferring, postponing the decision to purchase. And that's specifically the target that we're trying to focus on. So a logical group to focus on, young professionals, specifically working up and down the 294 corridor. As you can see there's a host of employers, thousands of jobs, millions of square feet of office within 3 miles of this site. Allstate, Astellas, Takeda, Walgreens, Hewitt, Valspar, just to name a few. And despite all this employment, there really has been very limited development of purpose-built rental housing to serve this market. We see singles, we see couples. Given the transit-oriented location, this is ideally suited for a couple where one person commutes locally, the other one hops on the train and goes downtown. And it'll get into the idea of owning a car. We don't believe that people living in this in our community won't have a car, but certainly a couple, it becomes reasonable that a couple might only own one car while the other commutes on the train. Corporate relocation and contract employees, specifically in some of the international firms that are on the board. Lots of times these employers bring in workers for a shorter period of time, maybe a 1-year, a 2-year contract. We've had that experience many times. They're seeking high-quality housing, maybe furnished units, and yet they need the flexibility where they're not willing to purchase, but they do want high-quality living. We also see this as an opportunity for empty nesters, perhaps folks that it took a long time for them to sell their home in a downsizing mode, and they're not necessarily interested in jumping right back into home ownership at this time. It's a wonderful, flexible option while the empty nester considers their next move. And this is all these folks are what we refer to as renters by choice. They're seeking a maintenance-free lifestyle. They're seeking the flexibility of renting versus owning at this time. Benefits we see to the community, high usage of local restaurants and entertainment. These are folks that are seeking a lifestyle. They'll be going to the restaurants up and down Milwaukee, and they'll be using the businesses. They'll also be drawn to all the wonderful amenities that you've created in your what we'll call the town center, with the rec center, the aquatic center, Heritage Park, the trail system up and down the Des Plaines River. Those are really an attraction we see, and something that will be a great marketing point for a project like this. Just to touch on the demand for TOD rental communities. We've created a little chart there that shows kind of the north-northwest metro lines. And as you can see there, the Northgate Crossing site is shown really as it would be the only new rental purpose-built community on the north-central line, built in the last 15 years. We referenced 3 projects located east. There's one in Glenview at the Glen Town Center. There's one in Deerfield, right by the Deerfield train station, and then there's another one in downtown Highland Park. But very, very limited, again, purpose-built rental housing. In the last wave of development, it was all focused on for sale. Less than 275 units built in the last 15 years. Historically, these communities located within a half-mile of a train station have outperformed any other communities. And that, I think, speaks to the long-term viability of this project. If it's well located and well built, it will perform well in the long term. So just to summarize, as we see it, the benefits of this proposal, given the larger plans that for the station area, the town center, we see this project as a catalyst It's going to bring a new housing product to the community in these changing times. It's going to bring $6.5 million roughly of disposable income, that much of which will be spent in the community. It's going to increase that pedestrian activity that fuels the transit-oriented communities. It fuels the activity and the sense of place that you with your vision have started to assemble, put together land and plans to create that environment. And ultimately, we're proposing quality design, construction, and amenities supported by professional management in a great location that looks towards the future for a highly successful development. That summarizes our formal comments, but we're here to answer any questions, and we're looking forward to moving ahead.
What do you contemplate offhand, the rentals being a month?
The rental rates right now we're projecting starting at around $1,200 a month for a one-bedroom, $1,800, $2,000 on the high end for a two-bedroom.
Almost as much as my real estate tax. Start off with Commissioner Raffato.
Thank you. You mentioned just popped up TOD. What does TOD stand for?
TOD stands for Transit-Oriented Development.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Acronyms, you know, I know you mentioned transit-oriented, but I didn't see it, that terminology. So you talked about Waterbury Place. Where is that located in Buffalo Grove?
Waterbury Place is located on Half Day Road, west of Milwaukee Avenue, just before the tracks. It's on the south side of the road. It's actually adjacent, just east of the railroad tracks.
Okay, okay, I just wanted to find out where that was at. Okay. I have a couple of notes. When you were, you mentioned, let me find it, I'm in the wrong thing. You mentioned the property and the TIF, and I believe, because I did watch the presentation that you gave to the board, and they talked about the church to the south as being part of TIF. We still want that considered as, you know, as you're working through all of this to be.
Understood. That's been made clear. We have had some preliminary discussions with the church, and we understand that from the comments made by the trustees that they'd like to at least see if we can't incorporate that into the overall planning exercise.
Great, great. Let me just go through my notes here. I noticed in this development, and then also some of the statistics that you gave for other developments, that there are no 3-bedroom units. Why is that?
Well, in this particular case, the focus, again, our renter profile starts with that young professional, single, probably a couple without children or probably doesn't have school-age children and empty nesters. The reason being that historically the 3-bedroom market, the 3-bedroom apartments are more attractive to families, and they tend to be at the price point of a 3-bedroom, you start to push up against purchasing or renting a townhome. So we're really not trying to compete with that segment.
Well, and I saw that in other, you did comparisons, and I saw that in all the developments that were, you know, that weren't necessarily built by you, but I was just curious about that because I found it odd, but then as you say that it is, you know, from a price point, it's pushing that upper limit. Understood, great. Now, the streets around your development, are those going to be private? All the,
we would envision the streets, all the paved surfaces, once you leave Northgate, would be private.
Okay, all right. One thing to consider, and I haven't really looked closely at it, and I'm sure that, you know, that's just a concept, and somebody else will bring it up, is that, you know, snow removal is key to ensuring that you have space for taking that. I found the garages interesting, I haven't seen a development like that. So I assume those are to be rented,
Yes.
and the garages in a unit, are those garages specifically for that unit, or can somebody from another unit rent one of those? How does something like that work?
First come, first serve. Each garage will have a door that enters onto the common corridor. So they would go from their garage into the common corridor and then to their unit. So they would not be assigned to any specific unit.
Okay, all right. In your drawing, and I'm just curious on, let's see, where you have the layout of a floor with the garages. One of the garages, it just reads HC garage.
That's a handicap accessible garage space.
Okay.
So it's wider, it's 15 versus 12 feet wide to allow, pursuant to the code requirements, at least one handicap accessible enclosed garage space.
Great, okay, excellent. I've never seen, so I haven't seen this, I was at an apartment complex early in April, and the concept that you normally see is the detached garages, a row of them, that most of them aren't occupied. So have you built a subdivision like this with garages like this?
Yeah, the answer is yes. We found in detached versus attached, there's a premium. People like being able to pull right into the garage, and they like being able to, especially in winter months. We also find that the ratio is such that there is demand that supports about 25 to 30% of garages. When you go to projects, and we've surveyed projects, when they provide one-to-one ratios, they generally can't get the rent for them, or if they do charge rent, they're subscribed in the winter, and then they're a lot of vacancy in the summer.
So how would you anticipate running those annually? Are they part of the?
It'd be first come, first serve.
Okay, and you feel that demand is there for something like this?
Annually, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. It's a great concept. Do you have an example of a complex like that in the area that I could go look at? That's a rental that you can get. I mean, I don't need it right away, but that you could give to Andrew that we could.
Sure, you bet. I think we gave in a traffic memo I listed about half a dozen projects that I'd personally been involved in that.
And they have garages like that?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
That's fine. Great. And, I know you can't answer this right now, but one of the things we look at, and I see balconies, and, the depth of the balconies, so they're sufficient enough to have a nice table out there and probably a grill so people can grill, because we've seen some that have been very, very tight and aren't very useful. So keep that in consideration. The mechanicals, I assume they're going to be up on the roof as far as...
Presently, we're envisioning using a Magic Pack unit, which is a self-contained furnace and air conditioning
Really?
unit
Okay.
that's integrated into the unit.
Oh.
So, that's our current course. Okay. Allows individual control of the heat and the AC, which is what runners want.
Okay. And then from a technology standpoint, are these apartments going to be wired with fiber, just something as you move forward as to...
We typically equip them with provisions to access the internet and cable TV and telephone.
Right.
Whether or not they're fiber optic, I couldn't make that call at this time.
Okay. I mean, because that is, from a future standpoint, that's the way to go. From a technology standpoint, speed standpoint, being in the telecommunications industry, fiber is irrespective of what you have. However, you're getting your high-speed internet or your entertainment, fiber is a faster way to go. Even to the premise is a much better way to go. So, just a consideration.
Thank you.
And you have a real nice pond around there. are you going to put some features around that pond, like benches and?
Yes, when we come back for the formal presentation, we will present a more fully developed
Sure.
landscape plan
Right.
that will incorporate a number of features.
Right. And one of the things that I'd like to see is, and you show it in one of your diagrams, some walking paths in the open space. And then if you have some connectivity across the road, and then if you have a walking path around it, and as obviously I see you have that, and some markings on there, so people know how far they're walking around it.
It's a good suggestion.
Just and some benches like at a mile, so if somebody like me has to stop, they can rest somewhere.
And
So-
with the defibrillator.
Right, exactly. From that other company, exactly. And I see the need for rental. I've got a number of friends that are in real estate right now, and most of the things they're doing is rental, and something like this is key to our town center, and the transit-oriented development is really great. I, of course, coming here today, of course, looked at 6 o'clock or a little after 6, you see that traffic on Northgate, coming southbound, and it will be interesting, but at least it's further off, and it should be able to alleviate that, but it really looks like a great development. I'm anxious to see when you guys come in.
Thank you.
That's all I had.
Okay, Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. The handicap garage thing is an interesting concept, but what I don't see is any elevators for that handicapped person to use, or anybody to go up to the 3rd floor, like Commissioner Raffato climbing up the 3 flights.
After his walk.
Is there plans for that in the?
There aren't plans for that. This is a time-tested product, 3-story walk-up product. With elevators come maintenance, especially in smaller buildings. Generally, you'd see to justify the elevator costs, you have to create larger buildings, larger massing, and that's really not the scale that we're going for in this case. To meet handicap requirements, it's there will be the appropriate allocation of accessible and units that would be ground floor units per ADA.
Okay.
Interesting.
And I assume you plan to do this in phases. You're going to start with 1 or 2 buildings.
Actually, our intent would be to construct the entire thing at one point in time. We'll construct it once, get all 8 buildings built as quickly as possible in an orderly fashion, and begin to move people in as certificates of occupancy are achieved.
Very good. Your one slide about the transit-oriented development, you mentioned that this would be the only one on the north central line, but isn't Waterbury Place?
Rental. This would be a rental
okay.
community. That's actually for sale.
Okay, thanks. That's all I had at this point.
Commissioner Burns.
Thank you. I'm not as convinced that rental is the way to go here. I see this as prime real estate for townhomes or condos at the least. I know the trend lately, since the credit crisis, has been to build rental because so few would-be buyers are qualifying for loans. We have actually a development in town, Arlington Club, where there's a mix of rental and home ownership. Maybe something like that could work here. But I'm a fan of the residents owning the apartment that they're living in. Especially if they can afford $1,200 to $1,800 a month in rent, they can afford to buy a lot of condos in and around Wheeling. Now this one's going to be close to the metro station, and that is a selling point, whether it's a rental property or a condo or a townhome development. In regards to the parking, you asked for a variance from the required number of parking spaces. I can't, I'm not convinced of that either. Your demographic for the residents, those young people are each going to have a car, even if they are taking Metro to work and back. That's great, but they're still living in Wheeling, where the CTA is not going to pick them up and take them to the restaurant that they want to go to or what have you. They are. I don't see many young couples that will go with one car unless they're forced to by their income. But if they're living in this community, they are going to be making $70,000 a year according to your profile. I'd like to see underground parking in these buildings, because even if rental, if this starts out as rental, in the future it might convert to condo. We have had that happen. And finally, Commissioner Raffato mentioned what a nightmare southbound traffic on Northgate is at the evening rush. Most of the residents of this neighborhood will be coming home at that time, but if any of them want to go out to dinner after they get home, they're probably going to go to Lake Cook Road, or else they're going to wait for quite a while to get out onto Dundee Road. As long as you're aware of that. So best of luck. It's very exciting, and look forward to seeing it develop. That's it for me, Mr. Chairman.
There are a couple of questions. The heating cooling system, is that one of those Mitsubishi type individual units?
Brand has not yet been determined.
I'm sorry?
We have not locked in on this specific brand.
But is it one of those it's both heating and air conditioning?
It's a smaller size, furnace and air conditioner unit.
Oh, it's a regular furnace and air conditioning unit.
Right.
Okay, because they've got these multi-stage things that do both heating and cooling. Okay. Have you compared this to the rental units just north of Chevy Chase?
Actually, that was a community that was built by my former company in the middle 80s. We're very familiar with that.
That's very close to what you're talking about here. I don't know what the income level is there, but.
Yeah, I guess the distinction there is that community, by the time this would be delivered, would be almost 30 years old. And yet, I think if you drive through it, it still looks very nice. It's maintained very well. A couple of distinctions: that doesn't have any garage parking at all. Those units are smaller, reflective of the time they were built. Most of the one-bedrooms don't have washer dryers in the units. The kitchens have not been up. I mean, they're not reflecting the current designs that we would include. But I think that's a pretty good example of I was there 2 days ago. They're at 98% occupied.
How many units are there?
572. They said they don't have a one-bedroom available right now.
That's always been well kept up.
It's always been well kept up.
Excuse me.
It's had 3 owners, I think, since it was built, all professionally owned, managed, maintained, institutional investors, and it's kind of indicative of really how a community, if it's well located, well designed, will stand the test of time.
Thank you. Commissioner Dorband.
Thank you. Can you tell me a little bit more about the exterior plans for this building, or these buildings, excuse me?
I can tell you that at present, we are only at the conceptual stage. It's been my experience that the quality is a function of design, specification, and execution. You start with the design, the appropriate fenestration, the window openings, the door openings, the scale, the proportion, the details of how those windows and doors are trimmed, the eave overhangs, the rake edges. All those elements together make up the massing of the building. The materials, the quality of the materials, as Matt mentioned, we are looking to create a building that will stand the test of time. The materials that we select will be selected for their longevity, for their ease of maintenance. That would include masonry. It would include cement, fiber, siding materials, things that aren't going to chip, peel, warp, split, or rot. Those types of materials are what we envision. I also think it's important to introduce a mix of materials in the building to create more visual interest. And as I previously referenced, we look at these buildings from all four sides. We know they're going to be viewed, while some buildings would be viewed principally from the front, some would be viewed from the rear elevation. We'll pay equal attention and use similar details on all four sides.
Well, just so you understand, one of our codes is that we have a greater percentage of brick, and so we would obviously expect you to go along with that. I had a couple, I did notice that a couple of your units are less than our code permits.
In terms of the size?
In terms of size, correct.
We are proposing a certain mix that we believe is appropriate for the marketplace. If relief is necessary within the code, we will seek that relief.
Okay, because like I said, there is a difference between what our code allows for and what you have in some of the units. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm kind of like a broken record. I always want to raise the bar, and this is a nice project. I like it, but again, I want to see us raise the bar. I know that in most cases, most of your square footage on most of these units are above what is in our code, but you know, if you can see it to make them bigger, I'd be a happy camper. As far as the land banking, I am not in favor of land banking. I never have been. I think that down the road, we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what's going to happen. So therefore, I'd like to have the parking already in place. The other rationale for having the parking is that we, from time to time, have a great deal of snow. This last winter, we were very fortunate. The winter before, we were not. And I am the only one who lives in a community where there are multifamily. And we have a good deal of extra parking in our complex where snow can go. This concerns me that people who, as you've said, a lot of young professionals that are getting in and out and need to get to work, need to get out. So we need to make sure that they have, can get out, you know, because whoever's going to plow your snow is going to need someplace to put it.
I appreciate that. Having served, I've got to say, continuously on a variety of townhome and condominium association boards for the past 20 plus years, I live it every year in, year out, so I understand the complaints that come in, and we employ everything we learn on the next development that we build. So leaving adequate space for snow storage is definitely on my list.
Yeah, serving on my own townhome board, we take a terrible risk if our snowplow isn't there to clean up and let people out. I think this is obviously preliminary, so I don't think I have any additional questions. But I didn't think about it, but Commissioner Burns brought it up, and I like the idea of the some homeowners, some rental, like Arlington Club. I think that's a good thing to look at, possibly. That's my only questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Stiles.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just add that I think Mike's concept of at least having more covered parking, and if that leads to for sale and rental, I think that may be very beneficial. And then add to Pam's concept of snow, I noticed that, a nice, easy place to push snow is into the pond area, and where you have bump outs where the streets are. Maybe you want to turn those to bumps in so you can push the snow straight down the street and almost right into the pond area with a little bump out. You might not be able to get it into the pond or closer to the pond, so that might be a consideration. Another thing, I noticed that all the front entrances are really accessible to the parking lots, which is nice, but the rear doors, I don't know, are those emergency exits or are those going to be real, get out and walk around the common area type?
We expect the rear entrances to be actively used,
Okay.
so people will be able to get out onto the walking paths or enter the rear of the building from other parking areas.
One thing I noticed, and I know this is just a conceptual plan, there's nice walking path around the pond, and down Northgate you have a sidewalk, and along the buildings there seems to be a lot of north-south walking paths, but there doesn't seem to be too much east-west walking. Nothing along the north-south side, nothing along the south side, nothing along the adjacent areas where the buildings are. And if people are going to be transit-oriented, you probably need a way to get them easily to the Northgate area rather than walking in a street or walking in a parking lot. So, take a look at east-west transition as well as your north-south area. You say you want it to be an upscale area, and I think you've picked a good spot because you are going to have a lot of amenities with the Park District close by and whatever that people will be able to make use of. And you're going to have a pool, and we also have a very nice pool, except our pool closes down in the winter, right? And yours is open, so it probably will close down in the winter as well. Any thoughts of making your complex having an enclosed pool, along with the rest of the facilities? That might foster more year-round activities or be able to make use of it, especially if it's going to be an upscale area with gymnasium and stuff like that.
I don't know that we considered doing an indoor pool at our facility, but part of the reason we're attracted, it would be for people to use the indoor pool at the rec center, to use the basketball courts, to use the amenities that we don't have at the.
Do we have an indoor pool at the rec center? Yeah.
Sure, big one. I took my 3 boys there a month ago and
I
had a
better
great
get
time.
over there and check that out.
The Arctic Splash.
It's only been about 10 or 15 years.
Okay, maybe you don't need a pool then at all.
You're not a strong swimmer.
Yeah. One thing that I would ask you to consider, I didn't see any indoor locations for mechanical stuff like gas meters, water meters, and all that kind of stuff. Air conditioning condensers. I hope they're not going to be planted outside around the building in all kinds of different places. If they can be located in one common spot and hidden real good and not have pipes and tubes and stuff all running on all over the outside of the building, that would be great. And the other thing is that Jim mentioned fiber optics. Satellite dishes are also a nicety to have, and if you look at a lot of condos or townhouses, rentals, they're all sitting on the balconies and everybody seems to have their own little dish. The satellite manufacturers now have come up with a centralized transmission system, so one dish can feed an entire building or, multiple buildings if they're close enough. ask that you look into provisioning the facility with all kinds of communication options such that we don't have, like cable companies coming in and drilling holes and running wires through the outside and ending up with dishes on the roof and, all over the place. See if we can
Right with you on that one.
get that. And I'm going to be very interested in seeing what you can do with the electric meters and gas meters and air conditioning condensers.
Well, that's all
and stuff.
self-contained. The heat and the air is self-contained into the apartment.
Well, the condenser has to be outside though, right?
No.
It'd be located on an outside wall so that it can exhaust through the wall,
Yeah.
but in a very
Okay,
disguised
so it's not
fashion.
going to be sitting outside.
Right. That's the approach right now, and we'll detail that when we come back.
Okay, I'm going to be very interested in that. Other than that, it looks nice. I think, the time is right for rental units. Single-family houses aren't selling very good. Condos aren't being built. Maybe the time is right for this. But I still like Mike's idea of potentially having some owner-occupied and some rental mixture. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Schaaf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have to agree with Commissioner Burns. I like the idea of a dual concept where some of these could be put up for sale, like Arlington Club. I do have a problem with covered parking. You could alleviate that with some underground units or some buildings having underground rather than the garages. I don't know how you would address that, but something should be done to give us or to maintain the code, and that's one covered spot per unit. You got a lot of units. I don't agree so much with the fact that your profiles are going to not use automobiles. They are. It keeps them independent, keeps them on the move. This is not downtown Chicago. There are not buses and elevated to transport people. They get there by car.
We totally accept that premise, that people living here will own cars.
Yes.
That said, 65% of the units are one bedrooms. The expectation is that the preponderance of those one bedrooms will be occupied by one person with one car.
Right.
So with 65% at one car, then you look at the two bedrooms and say, okay, how many of those are going to be occupied by a single parent with child, a couple, or a roommate situation? Single parent with child is going to have one car. A couple living there may have one or two cars, and a roommate situation would likely have two cars. But that's how we get to 1.5, 1.6 is generally how these communities wind up living in actuality. And I think Matt had submitted a memo identifying that, and we can provide additional data to support that assertion. So they're going from 1.5, 1.6 in actual occupancy, actual number of cars, how these things live, to a 2.0. There's a lot of surplus parking. So again, we'll be prepared to address that in much greater detail going forward.
You've got 8 garages per building, right?
And 512 parking spaces within the complex.
Right.
So including the 64 enclosed garages, yes.
Right. And the folks who own the cars, I think they'll want to park in a covered area. I know I do, but I have a tendency not to buy every 3 to 5 years. My vehicles I've owned for a long time, they're always garage kept. Be that as it may, I think we have planted the seed of at least one building with underground parking that will give you a lot. of covered parking. The other question, or the other comment I have, is on the size of your units. If you're going to have self-contained heating and cooling, water heater, you've got a washer and dryer, that still takes up space. You have to have some storage. I see there's no provisions for any kind of storage, for people to have. You still need that. That all cuts down on living space. Some of your units, 18-19%, are under code. Your 2 bedrooms are good size. I would like to see the 1 bedrooms a little bit bigger to accommodate what you need for storage, and that includes your mechanicals in there. I think it's a good concept. I think right now the economics are dictating that people do rent rather than buy. The American dream is starting to fall away from owning your own, and possibly renting is the way to go, especially if you're younger, and once you get past, when your kids and grandkids are grown. Yeah, that's a good concept. I welcome that concept. I think we need it here. The other thing is bicycles. I don't see any provisions for bicycles. I think there could be bicycle traffic, especially to the train station, over to the park district. There are bike trails here. You're not that far from that corridor going up to Milwaukee. You're only a couple of miles from that. I think you need some provisions for bicycle parking.
We agree with you completely. That'll be included in the next plan.
I believe those are my comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question, storage space. Generally, in the apartment building, there's a place down in the basement or something for storage. You planning on anything like that?
It really becomes a function of where you have space that's available. Certainly, the first starting point for the people that do have things that they have high needs for storage would be to rent a garage. The garages will have depth in there, shelving where they can store things. The way we design these units, just so you know, is we kind of start from the inside out. We look at optimal room dimensions, bedrooms, living rooms, kitchens. We look at optimal dimensions to have walk-in closets, master bathrooms. But technology has put us in a nice position with flat-screen TVs that are mounted to walls, with stackable washer and dryers that don't require full laundry rooms. So we fully intend for these apartments to have all the features that will attract the rents that we're calling out, but we're also taking advantage of technology and good modern design to make the best possible home in the most efficient design. As it relates to storage, we would typically create some storage spaces off corridors in common areas to the extent that it's available, and then rent those.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, just one thing. Me personally, I like this. I like the idea of rental, but I think there was a consensus here that you have to seriously look at, those options of rent and buying, and provide reasons why those things aren't going to work, and then work or will work. We need statistics, and we just can't have you coming back saying, well, that's not what we want to do, because I think, based upon what we heard, that's something that the board wants to see. And in addition, I personally will not want to see any kind of compromise on the square footage of the one-bedroom apartments. We just had an apartment complex come in here, and they were able to work with us, and granted it was a different type of housing, but they worked at least to work to the minimum of 1 bedrooms and the minimum of 2 bedrooms, if not more. And I'm not willing to compromise. Me personally, I'm not willing to compromise on that. That's something that needs to be really looked at quite seriously. Thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you very much, and we'll look forward to you coming back.
Yes.
I'm interested myself. I'm thinking I'm 71 and got a big house and everything. Might be money saving. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Look forward to you coming back.
Thanks.
Any idea when that might be?
I think we'll discuss with staff and be back as soon as we can.
Oh, you're that far along. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We have approval of minutes of April 26th.
No, isn't there one more thing on the agenda? Oh, no, is that after?
That's after.
Oh, it's after. Okay.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? It's passed. Mr. Jennings, other business, May 22nd, active transportation plan meeting.
Yes, thank you. We have, we've started working with our consultants on the active transportation plan, sometimes known as the bike and pedestrian plan or the non-motorized transportation plan, depending on who you're talking to. The first public open house related to the plan is going to be held on May 22nd, which is a Tuesday night. The consultants have been really actively working to get as much interest as possible in this meeting. If you have any other organizations that you're involved with, please share this information with them. The flyers are around. There's a Facebook page that they have set up to inform residents and businesses about this planning effort. The night has about 90 minutes of activity planned, both generally. They've got some information session planned, but they've also got a lot of interactive group discussion. They've got a couple of maps that people can put stickers on. They've got a electronic polling. They've got a variety of different ways to collect information at this meeting, and we're all really excited to see what they can come up with. So with that, I would just ask that everybody pass it on to their friends and neighbors and other organizations and see if we can get as much input as possible at this stage.
Thank you.
Is the survey live?
The survey, there's an online survey. It's not live in the sense that you can update it continuously, but you mean live as in, is it up right now?
Yeah, can I
yes,
take
the
it?
QR code works. You could scan it right now.
That's what I did.
You could take it right now.
Cool.
Can I make a comment? I don't know if the rest of you have seen this. In here is an excellent article about biking, and there were some very interesting concepts about keeping bicycles safe from vehicles. And if you haven't had a chance to look at it because I think you'll find it pretty interesting.
In that same line, before the meeting this evening, the chairman and I were talking about the lack of crosswalks in areas of this town, especially, like between Wolf Road and Northgate. There's very few places, if any, that you can officially cross the street or are designated to cross the street. And do you know when and if the stoplight is going to come into play out here? Because there seems to be traffic oriented towards the post office and people walking to the parks and stuff
The two locations that probably have the most unofficial crossings are here near Village Hall and probably near the Wheeling Willie block closer to Milwaukee. There's no set date. The intersection, as you all know, has been designed for some time. We've been working on the acquisition of the land that would facilitate the construction. So that's remains the current status of the Community Boulevard Signal Project.
Is it dangerous to mark a crosswalk across Dundee Road here by the post office, whatever? Is that, does it serve a benefit, or is it more of a hindrance?
We're not allowed to. We can't mark anything in the state right of way without their approval, and I suspect they would not approve it.
Okay. Thank you.
That's it? Anyone have any comments, starting with Commissioner Schaaf?
Nothing, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Stylen?
I don't have anything this evening.
Mr. Jorvand?
I just want to thank staff for including the types of businesses in our packets, because I do think that's very helpful. Thank you.
Commissioner Rufato?
Commissioner Dorban mentioned the square footage, so I was, while she was talking about it, I was trying to find what title that's, where is that?
It's in the R4 description.
Page 44.
R4?
It's page 44.
Thank you. All right, thank you. I was just trying to figure out, since we have it more accessible, I'm just trying to get my feet,
It's easy for Pam, she has it written on her license.
I
That's all I remember.
have that section.
Right.
19.04.
1904. Thank you.
.060.
That was it. Great.
E.
Thank you. That was it.
Commissioner Johnson?
A couple of comments on some past projects. Was there a change in the Stasek plan? Originally, they were going to have an archway built. It looks like they're done with their facade, but they never put that up.
I'm not aware of any change. I can go back and check. I believe the last time I saw a plan, they had the same.
As the
Yeah,
facade coming out.
they were going to put in footings and all that.
Maybe they haven't gotten to it yet.
It's very possible. The last permit.
I know they're working on the inside now.
Yeah, I believe that I was there talking to Mr. Stasek, and he had mentioned that he still has to put that up.
Oh, okay.
But I would check to make sure.
Because it looked like they were all done working there. And then another old one was Anna's Sunny Day Spa. There's still no sign there. We did approve a sign, didn't we?
We did approve a sign.
So I don't know if they're also doing tax service or what, but it's still got Liberty Tax up there. And I was going to say that I'm not going to be at next week's meeting, but I understand there isn't one, so we can all take the night off.
So you're excused.
Yep.
Sweet.
That's
Thank
it.
you. Commissioner Burns?
Thank you. This last petitioner is asking us for a relief from the parking code, which is 2.75 parking spaces per unit. And then he's arguing that, well, it's going to be 66% single-bedroom units versus, 34% two-bedroom units. I'm surprised, I guess, that our code is one code fits all without any, consideration for how many are one-bedroom and two-bedroom or even beyond.
The discussion of the change from a code that was related to the unit breakdown occurred probably 2004, and I think some of it predated me, actually. When we were doing the 2005 update, the discussion had already started when I came on board here. So the old code prior to the major overhaul that was done in 2005 did have a parking requirement that was based on the one-bedroom, two-bedroom, three-bedroom mix. When it was updated, there was a request for all multifamily to have a flat requirement. The number was studied and researched for some time. Comparison was made to surrounding communities to try to determine the appropriate number. The decision was made to include guest parking and covered parking within the flat requirement. If there's a consensus to take a look back and see if this is not working as intended, staff can certainly do that.
I think it'd be a good idea to look at it, because we're going to run into more of it, I think. There's a little rebuttal about the rentals and condos. A lot of the condos now are being sold cheap and they're being rented out, especially where some of these condo associations don't have a regulation. Some of them do have a bylaw where there can only be a certain percentage of rental units. Some of them neglected to put that in, and they're being overrun now by apartments. Mr. Styling.
One thing, I don't know if the team here has ever been through a major PUD development, and there are, Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, 3 phases of that development process, and once you make past phase 1, you can't make changes in phase 2, and, if maybe it would be a good thing for you to review with the team here that PUD concept. I think this is going to be a PUD, is that correct?
That's correct.
That's correct.
Maybe to refresh everyone's memory before we get into the process on when you can make changes, when you can't, and
also PUD means that some of your zoning regulations get thrown out the window too. You're wide open. That's one of the things about a PUD.
but it's up for compromise, right? They throw
Right.
something out and you get something back
Correct.
in return. At least that's how it's supposed to work.
We can, between the code and our application, we have a summary. We can send out the application. It has a flow chart of how the PUD process works. We also wrote, for one of our last PUDs, I think it was a couple of years ago, we wrote a 1.5-page summary and put it in the staff report. We could certainly resurrect that and send it around. Probably be the most efficient way to do it.
Any other comments? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're out of here.